As a small company, one of the things that's important, and I'm sure it's important to you, is getting the most out of the resources that we have. I mean, we bring people into the company, we have money, whatever it is, and we get to a point where we're looking at everything in terms of return on investment. So if we hire an employee, we expect that team member to be able to drive a certain amount of revenue. If we purchase a service, say marketing services, we're expecting a certain return on that, et cetera, et cetera. And I think that we absolutely have to do that, because if we're not doing that, we're not being good stewards of those resources. One of the things that we have to do in order to get that value is to measure. We have our expectation. We have to be very clear what that expectation is, and then we have to measure reality against that. Now, one of the keys, especially when working with people, is to define what that return needs to look like. So if you hire someone to be your designer, for example, you've got to make sure that they're delivering the designs within the time frame, et cetera, quality, of course, et cetera, that you're looking for, where this is going to make sense. We want to be able to look at basically the total cost of this individual, and then of course look at follow those dots to make sure that what we're expecting is actually what they're delivering. If we're not doing that, we're really being irresponsible with our goods. So let me give an example, a very specific example. So we hire a financial management firm, a company that's going to come in and just help us make sure that we're getting the reports that we need, making sure that we're not overspending in certain areas, pricing our information, that sort of thing correctly. Okay, so that's going to be foundational. That's their job. That's why we hired them. That's why we want them to be part of our organization. They come into the company and immediately they start identifying expenses, areas where we can reduce expenses. That's certainly a win. They look at, what we're charging our clients, and they say, hey, you know what? You could be charging a lot more because of this, that, this, and the other. You need to get certain margins. And so this is where they're showing absolute value for your organization. This is where you can point to this and say, okay, this company has saved me $3,000 or $4,000 a year. It's not generating revenue, but it's reducing your costs. So your bottom line, your profit, is what's going to be improved. And ideally, they're going to look at it from a tax perspective. They're going to look at it from an investing perspective, et cetera, et cetera. They need to know more than you know in order to produce the results for you. Now, on the other end of the spectrum, again, you bring in someone to do marketing for you. The expectation is what? Marketing's job is to drive leads. Now, assuming that you give them all the tools that they need to have, and this is going to be foundational. If you don't give them all the tools that they need to have in order to be successful, they're probably not going to be successful. But if you give them all the tools that they need in order to be successful, and they're not producing the results that you're looking for, then perhaps you're not getting that return that you're looking for. And so this is where the management of those resources comes into play. This is where you say, hey, you know what, this may not be the right fit for you for whatever reason, because you're not producing the results that we need. And we have to be very, very clear about what the expectation is, measuring that, and then letting people know when they're not meeting that requirement. So this is ways that we can make sure that we're getting the most benefit out of our resources.